All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's SIG scheduling meeting. This meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded. So be aware of what I was saying. And let me share my screen to go through the agenda. Okay. I suppose you can see my screen. Right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. The first item is from Nick Rain, and he's proposing a idea of change the current behavior of how we deal with the updated pod. So basically, currently, when the pod update events gets triggered, we will firstly check whether it's assumed. And if it's not assumed, we will just have different behavior depending on whether the same pod, the old pod, is in the on-scheduling queue or active queue. So what we are going to propose is to unify the behavior. So right now there is some debatable discussion here. So is that whether we should move the pods to active queue directly or respect the pod backoff policy. So for example, if the pod haven't been experienced the full life cycle of backoff, maybe just put them still in the backoff queue. So this is the debatable stuff we want to come up with in this meeting. We have some discussion here. I think finally, I'm convinced, and also Abdullah and the other guys agree that we like to go with the direction that we want the pod to be backed off, because basically if you put the pod back to the active queue in this situation, that may make the low priority queue has less chance to be scheduled, because if this update event happens very frequently, you will meet the HOL problem. So this is I think it's a severe problem we want to avoid. And if we go with the current behavior, which is if we go with the behavior that we put them into the backoff queue, so I think the downside is that maybe the pod will have a slightly delayed scheduling latency because it has to be still in the backoff queue. So yeah, this is current discussion result. If you have any ideas or objection with the direction, you can raise it up or comment on this issue. And another thing from the discussion we found is that Abdullah raised is that why on earth we should care about whether if it's an assumed pod, why we care about which attribute the pod gets updated. So this is another problem we also discussed here. And also the result is that it seems there's no specific need to compare the update to check whether the attributes of the updated pod has changed or not if it's an assumed pod. So this is the last discussion. So yeah, you can also raise your point and have our opinion here. Yeah, this is basically this item. Two directions we want to go with. One is the respect the backoff policy. The other one is to return directly if the pod is assumed pod, no matter the pod event attribute is updated or not. So this is the first one. Yeah, we will let the issue be soaked for a while for other guys to be aware of and give any thoughts. The second one is that, thanks very much for John to come up with a document to documenting the internal scheduling queues, such as how many queues in total in scheduler, like active queue, unscheduled queue, and the backup queue. What's the difference, and how the paths are moved from one to another, and what monitoring metrics are related with it. So it's a quite useful document. And if you have any comments, if you think any statements not clear, you can review this PR. This is raised in Kubernetes community under, I think, under the contributor development documents. Okay, there's a second one, and third one is raised by Mike. Mike,
so
you want to?
Sorry,
yeah.
Before we move, with regard to the documentation in general, if there are more contributors willing to update our documentation, that repo is highly outdated in terms of, it still talks in terms of policies and things we don't really want to promote and we don't support as much anymore. So we want to move all of the documentations to scaling profiles and plugins and whatnot. So if any contributor has experience with that, we welcome PRs in this repo.
Yeah, so the community repo is the official place to place all the development-oriented documents here. So right here, you can see that community/contributors development scheduling. We have several documents here, and the queuing guide will also be modular here. And next one is from Mike to give some. Mike, do you want to take over? I can't open the link.
Yeah. So this is just more about the dependencies relocating from the last. We talked about it at the last meeting, and just to recap, we looked at a couple different approaches for refactoring these dependencies out of our plugins. We moved to 3 or 4 different approaches that we could take for that, and it seemed like we had kind of reached a consensus on this one approach here, and that was moving along, but it has kind of stalled out, and some people, I think, like Aldo and Abdullah, you guys raised some recent concerns about it. So, I mean, I shared my thoughts on this approach here and why I think it's appropriate, but I haven't heard anything back, so I just wanted to bring it up, see if there were any strong opinions for changing this strategy that we're taking, or if we can move forward with it. Because I would like to get these dependencies really rolling for in the next couple of releases to clean up.
Sounds good. Sorry for the late reply. I'll reply today.
No, that's fine. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we can do it offline. I've got everything that I thought written up here. I'm open to anything that I'm missing or any strong counterpoints, and yeah, just really trying to get this moving along, because we've had this issue open for about a year now, and you know, I don't want to see that stagnate out, and would like to keep being productive with it.
Sounds good. Yeah, and thanks for the great progress you've been making. But I guess compared to a year before, now we have a much clearer direction. And creating that staging repo and figuring out actually a path forward. So yeah, great progress.
Yeah, I think that that's something that, you know, we had that goal, and now that that has been solved, we're kind of like, okay, so what is the direction that we should take now? Which is why we have these discussions to, once we can decide a direction to take in these first couple of plugins, I think that that will make the rest just kind of fall into place when we can follow the pattern that's been established. So I understand that this takes some back and forth to figure out first, and then the rest should follow pretty easily.
Yeah, I think in the earlier, I'm more prefer with this option. Yeah, something goes on back and forth. Yeah, thank you for the first joining this. Right. And the next one is the 121 release is approaching to some code freeze. Let me open the timeline. So there is the enhancement which is called cat freeze. I think it's already freeze, I guess. And yeah, enhancements freeze is this is already freeze, so no more caps have been able to be accepted. And if you have any blog, you can I put the link here. You can propose some Kubernetes blogs there, and they will coordinate, maybe public in the kind of 121 blog series. And also we have a code freeze. It's March 9. I think all the major code changes should be finished by this. And but we can do exception requests later. So this is just one place. You can look at almost all the dates, milestones. And this website is also very useful. It has a short name, I guess. Kubernetes.dev. Yeah, can get to that. Okay. And also another thing is that starting this year, each SIG responsible to kind of come up with an annual report. There's a template to answer some questions. We are going to provide this as a sort of health report and some communications channels to see how this SIG goes with, like how the meeting goes with, how the audience, how the users react, and how we treat our SIG as, what kind of SIG we really all the stuff as. Yeah, sort of. This is the annual report. If you have any good suggestion on this, you can comment on this PRL or just ping me or Abdullah for the annual report. The last one about priority class value. So yeah, I can give a short introduction. So priority class is also associated with the priority class value, and that priority class is immutable. You can only create or delete it, not update. So Ravi come up with ideas says that there's some downside with this approach, because if you don't support update, user can still work around that by delete and recreate. So if you provide some native support on the update, it can reduce some maybe racy conditions on this. So Ravi, do you want to take over and give more detailed explanation?
Sure. Yeah, so we actually made a mistake when we were releasing OpenShift, especially in the last release 4.6. We have given the maximum possible user priority, which is 1 billion, to a pod, and now we realize that it is a mistake. We are not able to update it, and the only workaround that we had to do was like promote another pod to use the same priority. And there is a chance that that pod can actually preempt, or on the kubelet side, that pod can be evicted before the higher priority pod. So once we made the mistake, we did not know how to like recover from that. So we thought of like a couple of options. Obviously, deletion and recreation can be done, but we have another entity which is responsible for creating those priority classes, and that can actually do only updates at this point of time. It cannot do the deletion. So as part of the workarounds, what we had to do is we thought about it, and we felt that there are two approaches that we can think of. The other is the first one is let the priority of the priority class, at least the value, be updated. The name and the description, sorry, not the description, but the name and rest of the fields, they are still going to be mutable. But can we update the value? That is one approach that we thought of. The other approach was to make this priority configurable. Obviously, I think that Abdullah and I believe Wei, Aldo, and all those folks, they had some reservation in making that configurable. So I'd like to know what is the consensus here. Do you want a cap? How should we proceed with this? I believe most of the members are fine. The community members are fine with having an update. But the question is more on the lines of, should we have a cap for it? And I would also like to get a feel of why do you think the updates, like, why can't we expose this highest priority be a configurable option? I know some, like, I believe some of the folks have put their thoughts. I just want to get rest of the team members or rest of the community members' ideas on that.
I think if you want to it be controlled by a feature gate, maybe we need more input from the API machine, because we don't have this pattern since before. We usually have a few mark it as optional and use a feature gate controlling that. But if it's a specific API operation, I'm not sure it's technically viable using feature gate controlling that. Yeah, this is my concern. We need more input from the API machinery. And also, I think a cap is needed because, you know, users should be aware of this. And if users are using some hacking ways of processing something, they may be surprising if you, for example, provide this updating stuff. Although maybe in the very first phase we use the feature gate to control this.
Yeah. So sorry, go ahead.
Just one note, like regarding the update, it's a backward incompatible change, and so we need as much awareness as we can. Definitely, the last call is for API machinery to approve it.
Yeah.
So, like a small kit, just basically to have a place where people can chime in and discuss whether this is a reasonable thing to do or not. Or what you could do is tag, like, for example, Jordan Leggett or Daniel Smith on this issue, and get some information of like whether we should proceed or it's like a big no, like we can't do this.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. Like, I already have a hack in place, hack in the sense like I have a work in progress PR, which I have opened against OpenShift. I can also do the same in Kubernetes and tag Jordan on it and then see what his thoughts are.
Right, but I think if you tag him on this issue is better than implementation, because the issue is not about how to implement it as much as whether this thing that we're changing is allowed or not from a backward policy. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm a bit concerned about too, because this is already V1 feature, right? Priority classes are already, they have G8, it's not even in beta. Okay, I'll tag Jordan on that. And with respect to exposing the highest configurable priority to end user, like, do you have reservations on that too?
Where would the change be reflected, like on which components?
It will just be in the scheduler config, just like how we are passing like disable preemption as a scheduler config. It will be part of that is what I'm thinking. And by default, it would be set to 1 billion. And say if someone chooses to change, they will have an option to change it. At the same time, we would ensure that they are not touching the system critical priority classes.
But like it's I mean, you can't keep changing, like updating it, right? Like you can't keep increasing it, because at some point you shouldn't cross the system critical right?
Yeah,
and so
there will be a
you
guard.
go back into the same problem at some point. Like once you raise it enough, you're not going to be able to raise it more. And I don't know if that actually solves the problem.
No, I think the problem here is if someone chooses to do it, it is fine. Like let them give an option instead of saying that we have set a 1 billion maximum value for you. And like I'm thinking more in terms of where that responsibility should fall. Like, should we take the responsibility, we in the sense of component owner, like, should we tell that, hey, we are setting that value for you. We know that it's not going to be beyond 1 billion. Or what we can do is we can go the opposite direction. We can tell the people, hey, by default, it is set as 1 billion. We are giving you the option. Say if you choose to change it to 2 billion again or close to system critical priority class, you would have the same problem. But it is up to you if you want to make it.
Right, but like it goes back into what problem this solves, right? Not like giving more knobs, meaning there are more ways for users to like harm themselves, right? Like when they set up the cluster. If there's a reasonable value that we can provide, that value will just work.
Yeah.
I think we should hard code it. And I think it's the case here. I don't see it like configuring this solving a problem. Because like I can't imagine having more than 1 billion, priority classes in a cluster.
No, I agree in the sense that, I mean, not the priority class as such, but the priority value associated with priority classes crossing 1 billion. I agree with you. But as I told, we have made a mistake and we have two approaches. The one that is of less friction for us at this point of time is exposing this via a scheduler config. And I'm not saying that it is going to solve the problem. It just gives us a escape hatch at this point of time.
Yeah, like we can discuss in the issue, but I don't know if like.
No, I see
I
your point.
would minus one this one, but like there's a community, so I don't know. I don't see it as a like something. It depends, of course, also on how like are we sure that it's just the scheduler, because I think there are some checks in other places in the API server on priority levels, but I don't. Maybe they are only on the system critical values.
Yeah, the validation exists as of now in the API side. Like we ensure that it does not cross 1 billion, say if it's a user-defined priority class. That validation exists within the API validation. But when we are relaxing it,
so keep in mind that changing validation is not backwards compatible. It causes problems during upgrades. So in general, the API reviewers will be against this change. There are ways you can do it, but I don't think the value that changing this validation would provide is worth the effort, worth the hassle of doing this change.
yeah, like in both the cases, we have to like when we are doing an update, we have to change the validation code. Update in the sense when we are updating a priority class, we have to change the validation code. And when we are updating the scheduler, say if we expose this as a scheduler knob, even then we have to change the validation code. The point I'm trying to make is in both the cases, we may have to touch the validation code in the API side.
Some things, some changes in validation that are not backwards compatible, and there are some that are. So in this case, I think just changing the immutability of the value is fine, versus changing the maximum allowed value is not. But yeah,
Okay.
we might have a better answer from the API reviewers.
Ah, got it. Okay.
But again,
okay.
Yeah, I don't think both things are associated. They don't necessarily go together. But
Yeah.
as Abdul was saying, I also don't think this it's reasonable to change the maximum value, because the value provided by that is not significant.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is, I mean, just to reiterate, I'm fine even if you knack to this proposal, but at a high level, this is how it would look like. We will expose the scheduler config. By default, the value would still be 1 billion, say if the user does not provide any config. But the user say if provides, it will be changed both in the API validation side and in the scheduler config side. Versus in the other case, when we are say if we are allowing update, we just need to validate, we just need to change the validation code in the API server to ensure that the priority classes value is allowed to be updated.
I'm not quite sure. I understand the intention to put this config if we want to support this config in the scheduler side. Why not? It's a API machinery and API server config.
Sorry, I did not understand your question, Wei. So are you asking?
Yeah, I'm not understanding why this config, if possible, should be put into the scheduler side.
Which scheduler file are you referring to? Like in packages,
like,
API schedule?
Like you mentioned in the scheduler config.
Say if we change in the scheduler config, why should we change something in the API folder in the code path? Is that your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, like say if the user gives 1.5 billion as the configuration value. As of now, we have a validation code in the API server package APIs validation.go or something, which says the highest user defined priority value should be less than 1 billion. So we need to relax that restriction and we need to ask it to pick up from the config that was given by the end user when the scheduler is starting.
I'm not sure.
Are you saying that the packages API scheduler is still owned by scheduling team, so it should be within our purview? Is that what you are saying?
I just feel it's a little weird to have this control in the scheduling side because priority class is it's an API object and all the defaulting validation maximum controlling should be resized in the API server side. That's my opinion.
Okay, yeah, the priority resolution happens differently in the sense it happens at an admission plugin level, and most of the admission plugins are actually owned by the API server team. And the validation to them actually also happens within the packages API, a top level directory, but perhaps you're right in the sense that it should be owned by scheduler or scheduling team.
Okay, and we are run out of time. We can give the detailed proposal. We can give a summarized proposal here and involve the Jordan and other API folks.
Yeah, so I'll tag Jordan on this thread, and you guys can give a knack or rack on the other issue too, like exposing scheduler config. And perhaps if you take one of these approaches, we should be good from OpenShift side.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. And lastly, any blockers? And if you have any, you can raise right now. You can just comment here. We can discuss. Otherwise, we can end today's meeting. All right. Thank you everyone for joining today's meeting, and have a nice day. We'll see you in the week after the other.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.